Hello everyone, this is Seshu Chira from Hamska Academy. Welcome you all to our classes. Hope you all are liking our classes. So we would like to start today the topic in the age of industrialization. Chapter 2, Grade 10, History, Age of Industrialization. Let us get into the details now. So chapter 2, the age of industrialization, we are going to discuss how did the industrialization progress at different stages. How was the production before the process of industrialization began? See here. Before the industrialization, it's called as proto-industrialization. What is the work before the industrialization called? Proto-industrialization. So historians of industrialization or histories of industrialization very often begin with setting up of the first factories. So the industrialization process began by setting up of factories. Even before the factories began to dot the landscape in England, as you can see in the map, the Europe, the map where we can understand where the countries are located. So in England, where there was large scale industrial production for an international market, this was not based on factories. So even before factories were there, even before industries were there was production in progress. So many historians now refer to the phase of industrialization as proto-industrialization. Means before the industrialization actually happened, before the factories began to set up, there was the production happening. That process of production is known as proto-industrialization. So let us see now. In the 17th and the 18th centuries, merchants from the towns in Europe began to the European side. So they moved towards the European countryside. Why did they move towards the countryside? Because they used to supply money to the peasants, artisans, and persuade them, make them to produce for the international market. But the question here is, why did they move towards the countryside? Why can't they make the produce happen from the towns? Let us see now. So the expansion of the world trade and the acquisition of the colonies in the different parts of the world, because the trade started to expand. Now, how did the trade get expanded? Because the countries like England started to acquire colonies across the globe, especially in Asia and Africa. So in those times, there was a demand for goods that began to grow because they want more goods. Automatically, the demand went up. Because of this, the demand increased. So automatically, the merchants could not expand their production in the towns. They could not expand their production in the towns. So they started to move towards the countryside. And the other reason why they cannot expand towards the towns or within the towns, this was because the urban crafts, the skills had trade guilds or associations which were very, very powerful. Why the associations were very, very powerful? It was because the rulers have granted certain powers, monopoly rights to these trade guilds. That's why they are very powerful in specific products. So rulers granted different guilds the monopoly rights to produce the trade in specific products. Because of these reasons, they were very powerful in the towns. So the new merchants turned towards the countryside. So why did the people go towards the countryside? Because there is an expansion of trade. How did the trade expand? It expanded because the colonies were brought into control by the European nations in different parts of the world. Latin American countries, African countries, Asian countries were brought under control. So as we have large markets, automatically there was a growing demand for the products. As the demand increased and the merchants could not expand within the towns. Why they could not expand within the towns? Because they have trade guilds. The rulers have granted monopoly rights, means only one will have the rights in that particular production and the trades in specific products. So the new merchants now started to move towards the countryside. So in the countryside, when the open fields, now we are going to the countryside and looking at the countryside's perspective, why are they accepting the merchants' requests? So in the countryside, when the open fields started to disappear, means the common lands, they were enclosed. So the cottagers, the poor peasants had now to look for an alternative source of income, because their basic source of income was disappearing. They used to go to the common fields, forests and collect the firewood and fruits and everything. But that's getting disturbed. It's getting enclosed. So during this time, the merchants came around the places, came to their own homes and offered them advances and payments. In return, they have to produce the product for them and give it back. So the peasants welcomed the merchants like anything, because this was a time where their own common lands were getting enclosed. So they were looking for the sources of income. At the same time, when you go and offer something, definitely they will welcome it. The same thing happened here as well. So the income from proto-industrial production supplemented, means it became a substitute for their shrinking income. As the income started to fall down, the common land started to disappear. At the same time, the merchants came and offered them some amount of money, which became their supplement, means some support for them for cultivation. It allowed them as a fuller use of their family labor resource. So the entire family worked in producing the goods which are requested by the merchants. So when within the system, a close relation developed between the towns and the countryside. So as a merchants, they could not expand in the town, they came towards the countryside. In the countryside, the situation was they were not in a position to produce anything because their common lands were enclosed. So when they were looking for an alternative, they found the merchants coming and giving them a golden opportunity for them. So income from the proto-industrialization period or production supplemented their shrinking income. So it became a support for them from cultivation. So it allowed them to use their entire family resources for work. So with this system, it developed a kind of relationship between the towns and the countryside. Merchants were based on the towns. They used to make them work in the countryside. Like that, the relation started to develop. So the finishing was done in London before the export merchant sold the cloth in the international market. So they used to sell after they take it to London and finish the branding it or putting the label or anything, and they used to sell it to international market. That is how the production used to happen in the countryside, and it used to be supplied to the towns through merchants. Then merchants used to take it to London, and from there it is sold to the international market. Notes. Students can copy the notes here. So whenever you are watching the video, you can pause the video and you can copy the notes if needed. So that is the introduction of the chapter, the age of industrialization. The coming up of the factories. So the earliest factories in England came up by 1730s. But it was only in the late 18th century that the number of factories multiplied. Though it started in 1730s, the establishment of the factories, but it was in the late 18th century that the number of factories got multiplied. So the first symbol of the new era in modernization or industrialization was cotton. Its production boomed in the late 19th century. The production of the cotton boomed in the late 19th century. So the first factories came up by 1730s, but till late 18th century, they were not multiplied. They were multiplied only in the late 18th century. The first symbol of the new era was cotton. Its production boomed in the late 19th century. You can see the picture here, the cotton. So by 1760s, Britain was importing 2.5 billion pounds of raw cotton to feed its cotton industry. So it is a clear indication that by 1760s in Britain, the production of cotton was very, very less. Due to the climatic conditions, the cotton cannot be produced in England. So it has to import from tropical region countries or equatorial region countries where there are hot temperatures. For production of cotton, we need hot temperatures. That's why they were importing cotton from India, Egypt, and Brazil. So by 1760s, it was 2.5 million pounds of the raw cotton. By 1787, means the late 18th century, the imports raised to a height of 22 million pounds, which is more than 10 times. So 22 million pounds was the import production that increased. So this increase was linked to a number of changes within the process of production. The increase did not happen so easily. There were a lot of developments that came in, lot of inventions which supported for the improvement in the production of the cotton. So there were a number of changes within the process of production that helped for the increase of production, and that made the imports to grow to a height of 22 million pounds. So in the early 19th century, the factories increasingly became an intimate part of English landscape. As you can see here, by the early 19th century, it was the time when industries started to grow like anything, and they became common parts in the English landscape. Everywhere you find one or the other industries and factories coming up, so visible with the imposing new mills. So magical seemed to be the power of new technology. The contemporaries were dazzled, amazed. They concentrated their attention on the mills, almost forgetting the bylanes and the workshops where the production still continued. As we discussed before, that the production did not continue only in the factories. Before factories were established, the merchants used to move towards the countryside and used to do the production. But now many factories started to come up. But even then, the workshops and the bylanes still continued. You can see the cotton mill machines. So it was a series of inventions. Richard Arkwright created the cotton mill in the 18th century, which increased the efficacy of each step of the production process. So the efficacy of the production process has been increased by the invention made by Richard Arkwright. What did he create? He created a cotton mill. The cotton mill, which created by Richard Arkwright, made the work easy and also efficient. The costly new machines, the machines were costly to be purchased. So they have to be set up and maintained in the mill. So now this is another problem for the machines or the inventions. As the new machines what they have purchased, they are very costly and they have to be set up and maintained in a mill. Sir, without maintaining in a mill, how will they work? They used to work, no? They used to make the merchants. Merchants used to go and give the money to the peasants on the countryside, and they used to work. So no need of this much of investment. No need to buy a machine. No need to have a mill. All the process were brought under one roof and management, which allowed the supervision over the production process, watch over quality and the regulation of the labor. So now all the production roof were brought under one roof and management, because it was very difficult to manage how the people are working in their houses when the production was happening in the countryside. They used to work in their leisure time. They used to work after finishing their works. But here, if you are in a factory, everything, the management was brought under one roof, and you can supervise them. You can look at the production process and watch over the quality and the regulation of labor. How they are working, what is the quality of work they are doing, what are the steps involved in the production process. Everything can be managed under one roof. That is the main thing. So in the early 19th century, factories increasingly became an intimate part of the English landscape. So it was amazing to look at them, and still we need to remember here, still the work continued in the bylanes and the workshops. So the pace of industrial change. The main industries, as we know, the main industry is cotton. Cotton and the metal industries were the most dynamic industries which were leading in the first phase of industrialization. So during the industrialization process, what are the main industries? Cotton, iron and steel industry were the main industries. So cotton was one of the leading sectors in the first phase of industrialization up to 1840s. But iron and steel industry took the boom in 1840s. So by 1873, Britain was exporting iron and steel worth of $77 million. So $77 million, they are exporting it, double the value of its cotton exports. They were able to export $77 million, and it is double the export of cotton production. So it was huge increase in the production here, and they were able to export it. So domination of the traditional industry. How was the traditional industry then? The modern machinery, the machines industry could not easily displace the industries. What industries? The traditional industries. Why? Even at the end of the 19th century, they had less than 20% of the total workforce that was employed in technologically advanced industrial sector was very less. Why do you think, children, that the domination of the traditional industry continued even after the modern machines were invented? It was because the modern machinery was a costly affair. You have to buy it with huge amount. It is a huge investment. Second thing, they have to maintain a place, a mill to look after that. And if any minor repairs happen, it becomes very difficult to work with that. We need skilled labor to work with the mills. These three are the main reasons. That's why it was not so easy to displace the traditional industries with the modern technology or machinery. Base for growth. The pace of change in the industrial traditional sectors was not seen by steam-powered cotton or metal industries. It were the ordinary and small innovations which were built up on the growth in many non-mechanized sectors. So, what is the base for the growth. The pace of change in the traditional industries was not seen by steam-powered cotton or metal industries. Then who used to take care of this? The small innovations which built up the basis of growth in many of the non-mechanized sectors has brought this particular industrial change. So the main industries were cotton and iron and steel. Domination, yes, the traditional industry dominated even after the machines were invented, and the growth was not done by steam powered cotton or metal industries but ordinary and small innovations. So the pace of industrialization was very slow, yes, though technological inventions were taken place, but their pace was very slow. They did not spread dramatically across the industrial landscape. Why they could not spread across the industrial landscape? As I told you, new technology and machines were very expensive for the producers. So the producers and the industrialists were very cautious, were very afraid to use them, because often if they break down, the repair was also costly. You invest so much of money, and if you have repair problems, it becomes very difficult. And they were not as effective as their inventors and manufacturers claimed. So they were boosted up like anything, but in reality, they were not so effective. These are the reasons why the industrial pace was going in slow pace. So James Watt improved the steam engine and produced Newcomen and patented the new engine in 1781. So James Watt tried to improve the steam engine which was produced by Newcomen and patented it in 1781. His industrialist friend Matthew Boulton manufactured this model, but for years he could not find any buyers. Why? We come back to the same point. They're very costly to maintain and they're very costly to invest also. At the beginning of the 19th century, there were not more than 321 steam engines all over England. Of these, 80 were already used in cotton industries, 9 in the wools industry, rest in mining, canal works, and in the iron works. Steam engines were not used in any of other industries till much later in the 19th century. So even the most powerful new technology that enhanced the productivity of labor manifold was slow to be accepted by the industrialists. So any new change we try to bring, obviously even now, it is very difficult for people to accept. Similarly, you can see here, James Watt has already modified the steam engine which was produced by Newcomen, and he patented that one, means registered his rights over that in 1781. But his friend manufactured the new model, but they could not find any buyers. This shows how reluctant the people are. Why the people are so reluctant? As I told you, it is a very costly affair and it requires a lot of money to maintain that. The steam engines also could not boost the production. Even the industrialists had doubts on the power of the steam engine and the new technology as well. The hand labor and steam power. How did the hand labor and steam power go ahead? Let us see now. In the Victorian Britain, there was no shortage of human labor. Poor peasants, migrants moved to the cities in large number in search of jobs, waiting for work. Industries had no problem of labor shortage or high wage cost. So this did not want the introduce of machines that get rid of the human labor and which also requires at the same time large capital. Are you people able to understand this? because there are many migrants who are coming from the towns and the villages to the cities, the producers the industrialists do not have any kind of problem where the hand power is shortage, nor there was any demand that we need high wages. Why? Because there are many people ready to work. In that situation, if you ask for a particular amount of money or you demanded a particular wage amount, they will not give you a chance, but they will take the others. Automatically, you lose the opportunity. And this is one reason why the people, the industrialists, did not invest money in buying the machinery. So, in industries where production fluctuated with the seasons, industrialists usually preferred hand labor and employing workers for the season. So you can employ more number of people in a particular season. You can make them to work. They preferred hand labor. Machines were oriented to producing uniforms, standardized goods for mass products or mass markets. But the demand in the market was often for goods which are intricate design and specific shapes. So in the market, for the uniform products, when there are many available, automatically the value will become less. But in the market, there is demand for unique products, which are handmade products, which are having different designs, intricate designs and specific shapes. Those kind of things are having more value than the mechanical technology. That is the one more reason why the industrialists preferred only the hand labor, not the machines. The handmade goods came to symbolize refinement and class. When you are making handmade goods, you can make only limited products. So they were better finished, skillfully made, individually produced, carefully designed. That's where the people started to prefer more handmade products than the machine-made products. So what did they do? Machine-made goods were exported to the colonies which were occupied by England, and the others used to be sold in England for the elite community. Like that, the handmade goods were sold within the country. So in countries with shortage of labor, industrialists were keen on using mechanical power. Where there is shortage of labor, there they were willing to use the mechanical power so that the need for human labor can be minimized. Already there is no availability of labor. So the option what we have is we can use machines and we can minimize the importance or the need for human labor. This was the case in 19th century in America. Britain, however, had no problem with hiring human hands. So the problem which is referred to shortage of human labor is referred to America in 19th century, but Britain never had such kind of a problem. So after 1840s, building activity intensified. So building activity started to become more in the cities due to the opening up of greater opportunities of employment. So as the building activity increased, what they used to build, roads were widened, railway stations were coming up, railway lines were made and extended, tunnels were dug, drainage system, sewers were laid, rivers were embanked. So the activity in the construction has given an opportunity for employment by 1840s, and the number of workers were employed in transport industry doubled in the 1840s and doubled again in the subsequent 30 years of time. So like that, people used to prefer handmade goods or the machine-made goods. So wherever there is availability of public, those who are willing to work, labor, companies or the industrialists always prefer to have only the labor doing the work, handmade labor work, because there is good demand for such kind of products, because handmade products are having symbolized refinement and class. They were better finished, individually produced and carefully designed. So what did they do? They used these handmade products to the elite group in England, and they used to earn money. And the finished products with machines which are made, the uniformly made products were exported to their colonies, and they used to sell them there. In the countries like America, during the 19th century, they had shortage of labor. So they started to have machines which can reduce the need of the labor. And by 1840s, the construction activities or construction industry has given a lot of opportunities for public to work, because the roads were widened, the railway stations, railway lanes were come up, railway stations were built, tunnels were dug, drainage system, rivers embankment. So this number has become double in 1840 and again doubled in the next subsequent 30 years. That is how we have the hand power and the steam power.